So last week, we kicked off our series on theater and theology, where we go through, look at some movies, and highlight biblical themes present in them. And last week, we looked at an X-Men movie, a superhero movie. So this week, we're going to jump and look at a cartoon. We are going to look at, see if I can get my thing right. Yeah, I got it right this week. We are going to look at Frozen 2. Now, Frozen 2 picks up three years after the Frozen 1. So everything's kind of at peace now. The kingdom's great. Elsa is the queen. She's been the queen for 3 years. Great. But things aren't going so great in a little bit. She hears this voice that keeps calling her. She doesn't know what it is, where it's from, really what's going on about it. All she knows is she just keeps hearing it over and over and over. And so her first scene is when she finally decides to do something about it. She hears this voice and just doesn't know what to do, and so let's see how she reacts. So, can we mute the audio going out? I'm sorry, live stream. If we play the audio, Disney will come after me, and I don't have time to deal with that. So can we mute the audio, turn off the picture-in-picture, and we will be back for you guys in just a second. Our crew here has to go on an adventure to figure out what's going on. So they do. They go, okay, and also, I said it last week, I'll remind you again, I am spoiling all these movies we're gonna do. But I chose all old ones, so if you haven't seen this at this point, that's kind of on you. It's like 10 plus years old at this point, so just know. They end up going on an adventure through enchanted forests, across dark seas. But more importantly, they adventure into the depths of their family history. They have to go on discovery of themselves, what is inside each of them, and they have to plumb the dark holes of their family. Now, one of the reoccurring themes and lines throughout this movie is the idea of doing the next right thing. This idea is not new or groundbreaking. It's simply the idea that when things get overwhelming, you take them one step at a time. This has been rephrased a billion different ways, right? A journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. The school I went to for seminary, their tagline was, "What is your next faithful step?" One of ECO's phrases they use a lot is, "What is your next thriving step?" It's just the idea that you take things one step at a time, very smally, very, you know what I mean. And this seems really logical. You can't put a puzzle together all at once, you gotta go one small piece at a time. Great, that makes sense. What about when things are not going super, super great? This idea of being able to trudge on becomes exponentially more difficult when depression sets in. When circumstances are swirling around you so much that you feel completely lost. How do we work on moving forward when the idea of taking a single step, that feels overwhelming? Well, I would argue that is the main theme of this movie. The repeated line, "What is the next right step?" is also, I would argue, the movie's best song. There a lot of people like that one, but I would argue the one we're gonna see later is the best song in it, but that's just me. Most people disagree with me. But that is what the heart of this movie is about. How do you press forward in the midst of depression? As our story moves, our heroes get separated. Elsa goes off by herself into a magic glacial ice cave. And there she discovers some really dark secrets about her family's past. The story they had always been told wasn't true. And because she plumbed too far into the magic ice cave, she starts dying. But she knows what happened needs to be fixed. So she uses the last of her power to send a message to her sister Anna before dying in the cave. She's frozen in the cave. Now Anna receives this message. Elsa's plan works, the message gets out. But she receives this message at pretty much an all-time low. She is lost in a series of caves, has no idea how to get out. She thinks her boyfriend, her partner, has betrayed her and has left her to die. This message coming in tells her that she thinks her sister is dead. And her best friend, the magical snowman Olaf, has just melted in front of her because he was only alive because of Elsa's magic. So if Elsa's gone, Olaf's gone. So she has lost every single person dear to her. And not only that, the message she gets reminds her of, hey, you know the grandfather of your family, the patriarch that you all look up to with such reverence? Yeah, so he's actually a murderer who betrayed everyone and is kind of the worst person out there. Well, that's a fun day. Some articles I read refer to this moment here as Anna's Gethsemane, referencing Jesus' moment in the Garden of Gethsemane before his crucifixion, before his arrest, where he is in prayer, alone, isolated. And it's here in this moment where the mantra of the next right thing comes back. It's here where she has to decide what it is she's going to do. And so let's see how she responds to this. So we're going to show clip 2 right now. So it's here that she makes her choice to become the hero of this story. You could argue Frozen 1 was Elsa's hero story. Frozen 2 is Anna's hero story. She is determined to keep moving forward. She's determined to do what it takes to right the wrongs of her family's past, to unite the people, to get things right. Now, this notion of trudging forward when we're at our lowest is something we see in the biblical story over and over and over again. Maybe one of my favorite times, and maybe the most bumper sticker worthy that you see, comes from Psalm 119. Psalm 119 is massive. It clocks in at a behemoth 176 verses. It's huge. Fun fact, it is also what is known as an acrostic poem. What that means is every stanza of it starts with a subsequent letter. So if it was English, the first stanza would start with A, then B, then C, then D, but it just follows the Hebrew letters going forward. Just a fun fact for you for this giant book of the Bible, or I wonder if it is longer than some of the smaller books, but giant chapter. But perhaps the most famous verse from this chapter comes up here, verse 105. Your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path. Now I want to pause here and jump back in the Psalm, just a few verses, just to give us a little bit of insight into what is going on in the head of our psalmist that writes this. So I'm going to jump backwards. I'm going to start in verse 81. My whole being yearns for you to save me. I wait for your promise. My eyes are worn out looking for your word. When will you comfort me, I ask? Because I've become like a bottle dried up by smoke, though I have not forgotten your statutes. How much more time does your servant have? When will you bring my oppressors to justice? The arrogant have dug pits for me, those people who act against your instructions. All your commandments are true, but people harass me for no reason. Help me. They've almost wiped me off the face of the earth. Meanwhile, I have not abandoned your precepts. This is someone at the absolute end of their rope. This is someone who has tried to remain faithful, but doesn't know how much longer they can, because they see no hope. They see a future that is utterly bleak. This is someone who has endured so much and waited for God so much that they say their eyes have failed. They have literally gone blind, waiting for God to show up. So how can this person be the same person who then says, your word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path? How do those two things fit? How can the same person say both those things 10 seconds apart? I think some of it might come down to our modern notion of what is a lamp. When we think of lamps, we think of like a big Coleman lantern. I was gonna bring mine and I hunted for it for like an hour. I have no idea where it is, but you all know what a big Coleman lantern is. We think one of those, or we think of a big mag light, a flashlight that could light up this entire room. But that's not what we're talking about. Remember, this was thousands and thousands of years ago. Lamps were much smaller then. They were small little oil hand lamps that didn't put out much more light than a candle. So maybe that's what you could think of as a single candle walking forward. These lamps literally only put out enough light to see 10 feet in front of you, maybe. To literally just light your next step. It couldn't light down the path for you. I couldn't see you guys in the back with my little oil lamp. I could maybe see the front row at most. They give you enough light to take your next step confidently, to know your next step isn't off a cliff. So the psalmist is going through a lot. The psalmist is crying out in despair, but also knows that God is faithful. So when they talk about this lamp, it's them begging, just give me something, the smallest thing so I can keep going. The smallest notion so that I know I can take that next faithful step. The smallest miracle, the smallest promise, the smallest reminder so that I can do the next faithful thing. Our psalmist is completely overwhelmed. Overwhelmed with everything going on around him. They look around and it is just too much. They cannot handle it. So they're asking God for just a direction. Give me something. That's how I can remain faithful. That's what the psalmist is thinking. If I get just one glimmer, that's how I remain faithful. Then I can take one single step forward. I think sometimes it works to our benefit to not know the entire plan. Think about where you are now. Think about where you were 5 years ago. Are there positive things that have happened that you are further along in down your path? If you were to go back to yourself from 5 years ago, what would that conversation look like? Are the plans you had 5 years ago that you thought were the most important thing in the world that didn't happen and you're kind of glad they didn't? I know for me, I'm really happy with where I am now. I love being in this location. I love being in this area. Love being with you guys. This is a perfect setup for me. But if I would go back to 2021 Jesse and say, hey, this is where you're going to end up, I'd be super happy. Be like, yes, awesome. But then, if I told 2021 Jesse, all of the things that were going to happen to get me to here, I would have said no. I would have passed. Because all you could focus on would be the heartbreak, the destruction, everything bad that was going to happen. It would be hard to focus on how it ended because all you could see is the negative that it would take to get there. You'd be overwhelmed by the sheer number of steps, by the sheer number of heartbreak you'd have to go through to get to the end. I don't think I would have been able to take a single step forward. And this is the hard part. Trusting God is hard. Because let's face it, we're all kind of a little bit control freaks. We all kind of want to not only know the end, but have my 10-step plan to know how to get there. And that's not how it works a lot of times because we wouldn't follow the plan. Or we would read the plan and be, nope, I'm good. I don't need that. On the other side of it, when we are in the depths of depression, the very notion of maybe one day I will be standing on the mountain happy is so physically daunting that it hurts. It physically hurts. But we are lucky enough to have a God who knows that and walks alongside of us. We have a God who knows we can't do it all at once. So knows how to light one step. Both of the songs we heard talk about a voice whispering, a tiny voice in your head whispering, you must go on. In our deepest pits, we know that voice is God. That voice is the creator of heaven and earth, the all-powerful God. That is the small, still voice that whispers in our head. In our deepest pits of despair, when we are lying at the bottom of the cave not knowing what to do, when we feel hopeless, we're not. Because God reminds us, I see you. You are not lost. Let me pick you up. Let's take one step. I'll light 3 feet in front of you. Take that step. Now let's do another. And one more. So the question becomes for us, what is the area that we need illuminated? What is the area in our life right now that we need to know what is the next faithful step? What is the next right thing? It will be different for all of us. Because we have all had moments where we are like Anna laying motionless at the bottom of the cave, where the notion of even standing up is too overwhelming. So how do we even begin to take that first step? With Jesus. By remembering that we are not alone in that cave. By remembering that Jesus laid alone in Gethsemane so that we would not ever have to be alone again. So what is that area? What is the next faithful step for you? It might begin with even knowing where to point your feet. That might be your next step. Knowing what direction to start walking. So that is a challenge this week. For you, for me, for all of us. Sit with God. That can be hard, because we don't like to just sit and listen. But sit and ask, God, what is the step you have for me? What is the single step to get me walking down the path you have? Take some time. Sit with God. Reflect. Reflect on where you are and where you've been. And God will show you where God wants you to be. Just take one single step. Join me as we pray.